So tonight we're going to talk about parallel and perpendicular lines. Like last night, you guys have we have 3 vocabulary charts, one for parallel lines, one for opposite reciprocal, and one for perpendicular lines. And you're going to be using those to help you. You're going to use the video to help you fill out those charts. I'm going to present you with the definition, which occurs in the upper left-hand corner, the facts, which occur in the upper right-hand corner, the examples, which occur in the lower left-hand corner, and the non-examples, which occur in the lower right-hand corner. You're going to fill in these sections appropriately, and all of my slides are dedicated to each part of the chart. So I'm going to give you the definition, facts, examples, and non-examples, like the chart looks like. So the first definition is that of a parallel line, and parallel lines are lines that never intersect. So 2 lines that never intersect are parallel. Facts about parallel lines. Parallel lines have the same slope. They have different y-intercepts. Our parallelograms, which are quadrilaterals or 4-sided figures, which include our squares and rectangles, have 2 sets of opposite sides that are parallel lines. So our squares and our rectangles have 2 sets of opposite sides that are parallel lines, and so do parallelograms. That's really important for tomorrow. Example of parallel lines. Well, graphically we can see that they have the same slope because both rise-run triangles have a rise of 2 and a run of 1. And in the equation, y equals 3x plus 4 and y equals 3x minus 3 have the same slope, which is 3, and different y-intercepts. Non-examples of parallel lines. Well, graphically, those 2 lines, the red one and the blue one, are not parallel because they have an intersecting point, which means they intersect. And then when the equation, well, y equals 3x minus 3 and y equals 3x minus 3 are actually the same line, which means they intersect, so they can't be parallel. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the opposite reciprocal. And the opposite reciprocal of a given number is another number we can multiply by to get negative 1. The definition is just basically a number we can multiply another number by to get negative 1, and the symbolic definition is a times negative 1 over a equals negative 1. So a number times its negative reciprocal will always give you negative 1. So some facts about opposite reciprocals. If we have a number x, the opposite reciprocal is going to be negative 1 over x. If we have negative x, the opposite reciprocal is 1 over x. If 1 over x is our number, the opposite reciprocal is negative x. If negative 1 over x is our number, the opposite reciprocal is x. If a over b is our number, the opposite reciprocal is negative b over a. And if negative a over b is our number, the opposite reciprocal is b over a. These are all the common forms of the opposite reciprocal you're going to see. So I'd make sure you become familiar with these because we are going to be using them tomorrow. So some examples of opposite reciprocals. Well, 2 and negative 1/2 are opposite reciprocals because 2 times negative 1/2 is negative 1. Negative 2/3 and 3 over 2 are opposite reciprocals. 4/3 and negative 3/4 are opposite reciprocals. 3 and negative 1/3 are opposite reciprocals. And negative 10 and 1 over 10 are opposite reciprocals. So some non-examples of opposite reciprocals. Well, 10 and 1 over 10 are just reciprocals. 4/3 and 3 over 4 are just reciprocals because both non-examples, multiplied to be 1. We learned about this when we talked about solving equations with rational coefficients. The reciprocal of a number and the number, when we multiply them, becomes 1. So now we're going to move on to the definition of perpendicular lines. Well, perpendicular lines are lines that intersect at a right angle. Facts about perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes, hence why we talked about opposite reciprocal slopes first. Most intersections in major cities are perpendicular lines. The adjacent sides, the two sides that are next to each other, in rectangles and squares are perpendicular lines. Rectangles and squares have 4 right angles, and each side that are next to each other create that right angle, so they are perpendicular lines. The legs of a right triangle, or the two shorter sides, are perpendicular lines. Those two shorter sides make a right angle. Examples of perpendicular lines. Well, graphically, we have these two lines that create a right angle. Well, the first line is y equals negative 1/3 x plus 2, and the second line is y equals 3x minus 4. And they are perpendicular lines because negative 1/3 is the opposite reciprocal of 3. We can see it graphically, and we can see it in the equation. Some non-examples of perpendicular lines. Well, graphically, we just had two lines that intersect at a point. Any old point doesn't make a right angle. And in the equation, well, y equals 2x plus 3 and y equals 1/2 x are not perpendicular lines because the slope of 1/2 and the slope of 2 are just reciprocals. They're not negative, opposite reciprocals. And that is all for tonight.